Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
Walter Brennan won 3 Academy Awards. Award-winning actor noted for his classic roles in traditional westerns. But what happened to this previously famous star? How can an actor with such great abilities, success, 3 Oscars in just 5 years slip into near obscurity? In this video, we'll reveal the stunning truth behind the man himself, his abandoned home, his family life and catastrophic collapse, his career, terrible death, and a startling net worth. Stay tuned as we reveal the hidden side of Walter Brennan. Most fans never saw it. Walter Andrew Brennan was born on July 25, 1894, in Lynn, Massachusetts, to an Irish immigrant parents. His father was an engineer with a love for innovations, and his mother was a homemaker. The family lives in Swampscott, like Walter's father hoped. His son would follow in his footsteps, seek a career in engineering. In 1914, Walter enrolled at Ring Technical School in Cambridge, Massachusetts, a preparatory school MIT. Nonetheless, many young people discover you can't maintain a passion. Secret for a long time. Walter has always been, I am drawn to acting. While in the ring, he amateur performances in school productions, acting societies, and vaudeville productions. By the age of 15, he discovered that his passion for performing was growing stronger than his curiosity in engineering. As he subsequently remarked, "2 passed all of my standard topics, but more. My mind became increasingly preoccupied with my extracurricular activity, the acting club. Trouble was, I didn't know how to inform my father, would rather spout lines than plan. Stress curves." Walter's predicament was posed on hold when the United States entered World War I. He joined the Army, serving in the 101st Field Artillery, Dart Regiment in France. During wartime, Walter had been subjected to mustard gas, caused considerable damage to his voice, cords. However, the injury was catastrophic. It eventually gave him the high-pitched, distinct voice that would subsequently become one of his hallmarks as an actor. Following his discharge from the military, Walter Brennan returned to the U.S. and did a variety of odd jobs. Had tried his hand as a financial reporter, logger, ditch digger, and even a bank messenger. Ultimately, he switched to real estate for a brief brought him fortune until 1925 genuine. The real estate crisis swept it all away. With no other options, Walter thought about moving to Guatemala to become a pineapple farmer. However, a coworker proposed. He tries Hollywood instead, promising him opportunity to be an extra for $7.50 or each day. Perhaps it was destiny, or maybe he rekindled his passion for performing. Encouraged by his fiancée Ruth Wells, Walter finally got the confidence to share his dream of acting with them families. Unfortunately, neither one their families were delighted with the concept, particularly Ruth's father, who disapproved of their connection. He declined to reveal his blessing. Despite concerns, Walter Ruth went ahead with their intentions. Married, packed an old touring car, they made it to California. Walter later remembered a particularly memorable part of their voyage. During the rainstorm, with the top fluttering side curtains are falling loose, and there is an extra. The powerful wind blew. The top of the driver's turn off the seat area, but my new wife was equal regarding the circumstance. She stuck an umbrella up through the rip, opened it, and moved away. We went again. I believe that bit was used in 2 or 3 comedic flicks. Once they swiftly arrived in California. Notice that Hollywood was crowded with developing talent, and breaking into the industry, it would not be simple. But Walter did not give up. He lined up outside the casting offices. He met another person there. Gary Cooper, a struggling actor, he is likewise attempting to make his mark. Eventually, an opportunity arrived for Walter Brennan. As he later said, "I finally got a break. I just knew how to make jackass of myself." One day, frustrated, following another casting rejection office, Walter noticed a bunch of actors trying to bring a donkey to bray for a scene. On a whim, he offered to do what sound himself if they decided to cast him. Throughout the flick, his bray was quite convincing. They recruited him on the spot. His odd skill became unexpected. Ticket to the world of movies. And from there, he started landing tiny gigs, frequently without dialogue. He played a wide. Characters range from youthful sidekicks to elderly patriarchs. Some of these, his early credits included The Webs of Steel, 1925, Lorraine of the Lions, 1925. His major breakthrough came when director Richard Thorpe took notice and began casting him in extra roles. It would take more than 30 films before Walter acquired a more substantial role in the 1930s. King of Jazz is a grandiose Universal musical review, however, his career was. As Walter was about to take off, he suffered painful beginning accident. Occurred in 1932. Accounts differ. Some believe he was kicked in the face during an action scene, others allege that a mule kicked him. However, he lost the majority of his front teeth and had to use dentures. Interestingly, this turned out to be a blessing in disguise. When Walter, he removed his artificial teeth and looked decades older than his own age, offering his appearances ideal for the elderly. He played roles that his classmates were unable to perform. When Walter Brennan landed a new role, he had a history of leaving directors. They scratched their heads. He'd walk right, get up and ask, with or without. Naturally, the directors would respond, with or without what? That's when. Walter would calmly pull out his dentures and a grin. No teeth. I got. My teeth were kicked out. That's exactly what did it. This unanticipated edge provided him a significant advantage, making him perfect for playing older and more tough characters, well beyond his years. The first significant break came with a modest role as a taxi driver in The Wedding Night. It wasn't a showy section, but something Walter's performance stood out. Producer Samuel Goldwyn, who swiftly committed him to a long-term contract. That connection resulted in a meteor involvement in Barbar Coast. 1935 marks the first of 7 collaborations with the director Howard Hawks. Walter later reflected, "The role of Jenkins in Wedding Night was a good one, but I got lucky again," followed by the portion of Old Atrocity in the Barbary Coast. That actually set me up. From then on, the task never stopped. His breakthrough role occurred as Swan Boston Ram, a Swedish lumberjack, the 1936 film Come and Get It. The performance won him his first Academy Award ever awarded for Best Supporting Actor. Only 2 years later, he won again. This playing on a warm-hearted horse farm owner in Kentucky in 1938. And by 1940, he won his 3rd Oscar for playing Roy Bean, a tough judge, the Westerner, appearing beside his My Pal, Gary Cooper. Coop did not mind, and Walter chuckled when he stated this. Anyway, he was among the first to congratulations me after I received my 3rd Oscar, and I had a hard time working together. A lot happened after that. It does seem weird. 3 Oscars, in just 5 years. In an age where most actors were fortunate to win even 1. Walter Brennan's streak has increased over his lifetime. A significant number eyebrows. Was the system rigged for him? Favor. That has been the question, swirling been around for decades. Back in the 1930s and the early 1940s, it was nearly unheard of for any actor, let alone character actor, will sweep the Academy. Brennan received awards similar to these. He won Best Supporting Actor in 1936, 1938, and 1940. impressive and suspicious. Climb quickly. So, what was really happening behind the scenes? So, as it turns out, there could have been a reason, though. Does it classify as rigging? It depends how you look at it. During those years, members of the Extras Union were permitted to vote in the Academy. Awards. Brennan started off as an additional and had strong internal links. That neighborhood was allegedly extremely popular among them. His second and third winnings were claimed to be improved by this support. The situation heated up. There's enough controversy that the Academy eventually, the regulations changed. After Brennan's third Oscar victory for the Westerner in 1940, extras lost their total voting rights. Interestingly, following the regulation change, Brennan was Sergeant York has been nominated once more, but he did not win. Whether it was fluke, bias, or simply fans displaying up in numbers, one thing is certain: Walter Brennan changed history for the better, or worse. As Walter Brennan grew older, his love of performing never waned, and actually he appeared to like it more with age. While many stars pursued huge movies, Walter found comfort in his responsibilities, satisfied with the constant rhythm of television and family-friendly movies. At first, he didn't like the idea of committing to a regular TV series. This altered in the late 1950s, when he assumed the role of Grandpa Amos in Real McCoys. The show ended up being a huge success. It told the narrative of a humble West Virginia family is striving to make a new life in Southern California farm. The audience adored it. The Real McCoys operated from 1957 until 1963, 5 years with ABC, and one final season on CBS. Walter has appeared in Over the Show aired 200 episodes before it ended. Along the process, he collaborated with the show's originator, Irving Pincus, will form Brennan Westgate Productions proves. Once again, he demonstrated that he was more than just a performer. He had a keen mind for the business, too. Walter has never stopped working, and he made it plain why. I'd prefer to do. He once stated that he prefers television to movies. I'd rather do TV than movies, because there are no long layoffs in between work days. You make a movie. Then wait around for another good part. Not on TV. You go to work. The most of the year, I work 5 days a week. That is what I like. On Sunday night, I can't wait to get started on Monday morning. Unfortunately, most people don't. They feel the same way about their employment. True, Walter Brennan kept his word and stayed occupied. He made guest appearances on a variety of popular anthology series of the era, including Screen Directors Playhouse, Lux Video Theater, Schlitz Playhouse, Dort Arbethel, Barrymore Theater, Cavalcade of America, and Ford Television Theater. In 1956, he assumed the job of Outlaw Joe appears in the episode Vengeance.Canyon from Dick Powell's Zane Gay Theater. At about the same period, he served as a musical judge on ABC series Jukebox Jury from 1953 until 1954. Walter also maintained a consistent presence in films, featuring in titles such as Gunpoint, 1955, and the classic Rio Bravo in 1959, where he shared the screen, featuring John Wayne and Dean Martin. After, he expounded on his run with the Real McCoys, into voice work for animation projects, and even considered a musical career. Surprisingly, it was his music which brought him new levels of prominence. In 1962, he published Old Rivers as a Spoken Word, country tune about a weathered farmer and his mule. The single is backed by the tribute to astronaut John Glenn was released by Liberty Records and climbed all the way to number 5 in the U.S. Billboard charts. At 67, Brennan became the oldest alive person at the time score a top 40 hit. And he was not done. Yet. Only a year later, at 68, I returned to the charts with another, Mama Sang. A song is a melancholy song that brought him back into the top 40 on November 17, 1962. For his own company, Brennan Productions, Walter starred in the 1962 Western Shootout at Big Sag, as followed by a part in MGM's massive epic How the West Was Won in 1963. Regardless of his age, and in a time when many of his peers had walked away from, Walter was still doing the daily grind. Strong. In How the West Became One, he depicted a rocky and wicked river pirate, a position that proved he hadn't lost his edge or willingness to take on difficult parts. Walter was also, he is vocal about his beliefs, although he rarely discussed his faith publicly. Once simply stated, "I'm too old not to be a religious fellow." Later, he confirmed that he was Roman Catholic. His values expanded into the public realm. 2. In 1964, he spoke at Project Prayer is a massive demonstration held at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. There were over 2,500 attendees. The event aimed to put pressure on Congress. Support the school prayer, which had recently deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Walter warned that eliminating prayer from public schools marked an alarming deterioration for the country, a stance reflecting his deeply held convictions. Even as he participated, Brennan continued to act. In 1965, he has a supporting part in Disney's Those Callaways appear beside Brandon D. Wilde. 2 years later, he returned on television on the ABC Western series The Guns of Will Sonnet, depicting a determined grandfather searching for his arranged gunfighter, son. The show aired from 1967 until 1969. Walter got another hit series late in his career. He continued working in cinema on television during the late 1960s, including entering the second season of To Rome with Love, a CBS sitcom. He starred opposite John Forsythe. This would be his last regular series cast member. However, he still made occasional appearances. Appearances, including a few spots on Alias, Smith, and Jones, prove, once again, retiring was not within his vocabulary. In 1973, Walter Brennan began working Herbie Rides again for Disney, but because, despite his failing health, he eventually replaced. His final screen appearance. Smoke in the Wind, 1975, Joseph C.A. directed a Western marked the end of a long and productive acting career that lasted decades and genres. But his professional life was full of honors, success. Brennan's personal ideas and conduct created a quite different picture. Many people found it deeply moving, troubling. Despite being admired screen, he was widely regarded off-screen as a die-hard conservative with extreme opinions, notably on race and civil rights. During the 60s, Brennan was openly suspicious of the civil rights movement, and anti-war protesters apparently believed they were orchestrated by foreign communists intended to undermine the country. These were not just private ideas. Brennan made no attempt to hide his scorn for the societal changes occurring around him. As per reports, he even expressed joy after hearing the news of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, an answer that many deemed not only deeply insensitive, but shockingly inhumane, even those who might have disagreed with Dr. King's politics. Brennan's obvious glee at the death another human being was observed by. Many consider it a frightening reflection of his character. Walter Brennan's politics, views in his later years provided a bleak picture, contrasts with the wholesome grandfatherly figure fans had grown to love on screen. Backstage, he held strongly contested opinions and often they expressed themselves in ways that startled and many people become alienated. Brennan was convinced civil rights campaigners were nothing more than pawns for a bigger Marxist plot. He believed in a global conspiracy aimed at eroding American principles. taking over the globe, in interviews. Since then, he has openly denounced the civil rights movement suggests that uprisings in areas such as Newark, Watts, and Birmingham did not originate from unjust or desperate, yet were instead agitators have anti-American motivations. He frequently implied, Black Americans should have been content with the current quo, dismissing their grievances as sole result of manipulation. One of his most unsettling statements occurred during a conversation over the 1965 Watts riots. Brennan reportedly stated the violence might have been resolved swiftly. Using machine guns, a chilling and outrageous comment that left many I was curious how the gentleman from the authentic McCoys could hold such brutal views. His clear willingness to support violence against protesters, no matter who they were or what they fought for, felt cruel and deeply out of touch with those they formerly adored. Him. Instead of moderating his attitude, Brennan eventually doubled down. He, as an outspoken member of the John Burch Society, a far-right organization known for its hardline anti-illegal rights positions. In 1965, he really recorded speaking at one of the Society's customs, employing his familiar Grandpa Amos uses his voice to connect with listeners. Share his message. Within those recordings, he depicted leaders such as Congressman Adam Clayton Powell as conspirator, accusing. They are accused of promoting a communist agenda under the garb of racial justice. For many, these actions revealed a lot. The dark side of the adored actor, one motivated by fear, misinformation, and refusing to see others' humanity. Walter Brennan's ideological transformation was both worrisome and unexpected. The actor, once praised for his roles displaying wisdom and kindness. Characters, like Grandpa Amos on the reel, the McCoys came to adopt notions that appeared to contradict all he had already stood for. His belief system expanded, increasingly extreme, and he became certain that even his former pal John Wayne was a colleague. Communist, a charge that shocked many, especially given their shared history and previous support for one another. As he separated himself from those close to him, Walter's bitterness began show. He was no longer simply a private and someone having controversial beliefs. He took advantage of the popularity of his TV image to sow enmity. It was a betrayal towards those who have long admired him. Many people found it profoundly unpleasant. Behind the warm and cherished image of Grandpa Amos held opinions that were anything but kind. Everett Greenbaum had written 32 episodes of The Real. McCoy's was one of those revealed the truth about Brennan. Describe him as a bigot who regularly made racist comments. To hear such accusations from someone who had worked closely with Walter has long left many fans in disbelief, and it gradually became evident. The star had been concealing his more unpleasant beliefs behind wholesome. He represented the character on screen. This revelation was difficult to reconcile for fans who had loved his characters. This led them to confront they felt they seen the darkest side of the man. Walter Brennan was formerly the epitome of compassion and warmth in his audience's gaze had allowed him to personal prejudices overshadowed his public character, leaving many disillusioned. Walter Brennan's behavior. He proceeded to stun everyone around him, particularly following the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy in 1968. Cast and crew of Guns of Will Sonnet stated that Brennan truly rejoiced with the news of Kennedy died. This response left many. People are questioning his character. How a person who claimed to be, how does Christian behave in this way? His joyous, the reaction seems to contradict the essence of Christian teachings, especially the obligation to love your neighbor as yourself. Some contend that Brennan's his growing attachment to religion later years could have been personal journey, but his political affiliations. They painted a different picture. He was a member of the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals, and a solid conservative Republican. Creating strong reactions to political events are considerably more worrying. When Martin Luther King Jr. was slain, Brennan's public celebration. Many people had already assumed that he had a profound animosity for black people. But, in response to Kennedy's, death posed a fresh, terrifying question. Maybe Brennan wasn't just hostility towards black Americans, but towards the very ideas of freedom itself. He had long believed in Robert F. Kennedy was a communist, and everyone. Those who supported him were dubbed as communist as well. Brennan's perspective equated any endorsement of Kennedy family's political opinions with supporting Marxism or Leninism. His own support of Barry Goldwater in 1964 during the presidential election, a guy had opposed the Civil Rights Act, but only this ideological division has been deepened. In 1968, Walter Brennan announced his political beliefs were increasingly evident when he endorsed George Wallace is persuaded that Richard Nixon was too liberal to accurately represent the Republican Party. 4 years later, he endorsed a far-right candidate. John Schmitz ran in the 1972 election. Schmitz is a member of John Burch. Brennan felt strongly about society, backed, even chairing his finances committee, and spoke an advertisement for his campaign. Brennan also supported Ronald Reagan's campaign for governor of California in 1966, his re-election campaign in 1970. His political endorsements include beliefs portrayed a man who appeared to resist freedom and the ability. People's ability to think independently. Walter's viewpoint extends beyond politics turned into obsessive concerns about the future. He had an unshakable belief that the Soviet Union would invade the United States aims to demolish democracy and usher in communism. This fear drove him to take desperate measures, for example, investing in the construction of a bunker beneath his Los Angeles house. The bunker was loaded with guns, food rations, and other survival measures goods in preparation for an upcoming crisis. Brennan's paranoia did not end there. He went so far as to teach his daughter to forbid his grandchildren after listening to the Beatles, the world's most popular band at the time. His rationale was that he feared the music, the decadent moderns, period would corrupt his descendants and guide them down a moral decay. This was only one. More examples of Brennan's worries and his ideas influenced his life in ways that appeared increasingly disconnected from the environment around him. Walter Brennan's want to escape from imagined threats. Because modern advancement caused him to acquire the 120,000-acre Lightning Creek Ranch located approximately 20 miles north of Jose, Oregon. There he created a movie theater, a variety store, and the Indian Lodge Motel creates a private refuge for his family, far away from what he saw as the negative effects of development and change. It wasn't just. He sought to protect his own family. However, when he got older, Brennan would ask his co-workers about their political affiliations. If anyone, he admitted to voting for a Democrat, would give a lesson about the impending disintegration of America, further establishing his thoughts on the country, Heseisei, doomed. During his later years, Walter settled at his property in Moe Park, Ventura County. On September 21, 1974, he died at the age of 80. Empa is based in Oxnard, California. He was interred in the San Fernando Mission Cemetery, Los Angeles. He departed behind his wife, Ruth Wells, and their 3 children, Arthur, Walter, and Ruth, and several grandchildren. Walter Brennan's net worth, adjusted for inflation, is estimated cost $10 million. His primary income sources included acting and real estate investments and revenues from his work. Brennan was noted for living modestly. Regardless of his wealth, investing properties and sustaining a ranch inn, he spent a lot of his leisure time despite E. Controversy surrounding his personal opinions, historians, and critics still consider him one of the greatest actors from his time. Over a remarkable. Throughout his 50-year career, Brennan earned more than 30 film appearances, including successes that many of his peers could only dream of it. His contributions to movies have earned him a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, 5001, Hollywood Boulevard. He was also recognized with a position in the Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. His induction took place in Oklahoma City. Enter the Hall of Great Western Performers in 1970. Brennan's charitable initiatives included support for veterans' educational programs. He routinely gave. He prefers to remain unidentified. His actions speak louder than his name. His influence on Hollywood is significant. He cleared the way for character actors to gain fame and renown. Despite his accomplishments, Walter Brennan was unmistakably a man with many flaws, traditional beliefs, paranoia, and there was open racism among them. Some might attempt to show that he was a product of, in his time, he simply grew up in an. Such beliefs were increasingly prevalent throughout that time period. However, this argument appears weak when you consider that many of his contemporaries born during the same period managed to reject the same detrimental ideologies and have a good impact on the entire world. Walter's behavior, thus, contrasts sharply with those who I selected a different path. What do you? How about Walter Brennan's legacy? Can we separate the artist from their personal ideas, or do they define? What about the full legacy? Leave your views in the comment below, and don't forget to like. Subscribe for more content like this. I will see you in the future video. Bye for now.